welcome to a very special edition of the Geeks Who Like Sports Leaderboard interviews. As always, I'm Ray Carsillo in beautiful Los Angeles, California, joined by my best friend in the entire world, Lee Elias in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And our special guest today is literally a legend in terms of broadcasting, in terms of his charity work, and of course, is the son of one of the greatest baseball players of all time. We have the one and only Roberto Clemente Jr. on the show. Roberto, RJ, thank you so much for coming on the show, dude.
Oh, thanks for having me. Great to be here with you guys.
Yeah. We really appreciate it. Of course, we were talking before the show about some of the work you've done, but we also we're going to start off light because I know you're a big gamer and I'm a big gamer. I want to know just to get things started. What are you playing right now during while we're obviously in quarantine? There's a lot of great games you could be jumping into probably.
You know, I am very jealous that a lot of people have the time, even in quarantine. Actually, in quarantine, it's like the biggest time of their life. But I don't have to go to work. I don't have to go to school. I'm in it all day long. I can't do that, right? I have addictive personality. Fortnite for me is a game that I enjoy a lot, and I was just reminiscing and going like, how long have games been around? And I can tell you, I remember playing my first Pong. That's Lee, you have no idea what I'm talking about. You guys have no idea.
Of course I do. What are you talking? Yeah.
But I'm just saying, it is amazing how games have really changed in so many great ways. I think that the technology has elevated the experience. I am actually, for me personally, I am very interested in human performance and how the brain works, and having games that are affecting our brains in a positive way is something that I'm telling a lot of the parents, because a lot of parents are like, hey, my kid, plays too much or too long. Well, we need to figure out what that means. And that's why I'm so excited to start doing some studies, because I believe that finding that right amount of time, or if it's something that the more you play, the better your brain gets, we need to figure out what that is. But I'm very intrigued on getting the answer to the questions, but I have the tools to be able to do that, so I'm very excited about that.
Ray, I got to bring this up now. We were going to wait till later in the episode, but I'm going to bring it up now. We both downloaded your app, okay, which is called Roberto, and it tests a lot of stuff, like you're saying, with the brain. Now, in the relationship of Ray and Lee has always been the athlete, right? I've always been the one that plays ice hockey, and I thought, like, okay, I got some sort of edge here. Ray's always kind of been the brainy guy and the gamer.
The gamer.
Well. Yeah. Well, your app, he kicked my butt. He kicked my butt with all of his scores, and I'm sitting here like, well, I didn't get that score, right? He's like, well, I got this score. I was like, you finally won, right? And not that was what the app is about, okay? But I found that funny because we were astounded with it, and we want to keep using it, and stuff like that. But definitely wanted to jump into that because one is it allowed me to bow to Ray for the first time ever, and I have to say it like that for obvious reasons, right? But we wanted to jump into exactly what it is, and like I said, it just seemed like the right point. So, can you just explain for the listeners why you made this app, obviously what it does, and what you hope it will accomplish in the future?
Okay, so I gotta tell you my story. People don't know I suffered at least 15 concussions before high school.
Oh wow!
And they were non-sports related. Just to let you know, this is before high school. So from high school on out, I suffered more. I actually 8 years ago I was treated at a brain clinic in Dallas, Texas, and it changed my life. Being able to understand how fragile our brains are, and what we need to do to protect our biggest asset. It's imperative, because we can live without our limbs, we can live without heart. There's many organs that we don't need today. There's many replacements that we can live with. But one thing that we cannot live is without our brain. Mm-hmm. Our brain is everything that who we are, right? This who we are. So in essence, our brain is our main organ. Everything else is a substation. So when we talk about human performance, how can you talk about human performance when you're dealing from here down? you're not putting together what's happening with the brain. The brain is actually the one turning everything on. You're moving because of your brain. We need to figure out how fast and your brain can react in the performance and how we can get better. So long story short, there was a company in Pittsburgh that the founder, Clarence Carlos, his fraternity brother, his son, played here in Central Catholic, great football program. On a Tuesday, they had practice. I believe he got hit. Something happened. Long story short, this 16-year-old kid, they took him to the hospital on Wednesday or Thursday. They sent him home and fell through the cracks. He ended up dying on Friday. So at that point, Clarence had spoken to a few people here and kind of developed this relationship with other neuroscience members here in the community in Pittsburgh, and was able to partner with the University of Texas, Arlington, and Dr. George Kondrasky. And what Dr. Kondrasky did, he was able to webify 50 years of neuroscience and tabletop apparatuses and be able to put it up on the cloud. And in essence, that's what we have. The parent model is actually the RC21X, Roberto Clemente 21X, and that's 12 minutes. It actually has an exemption as a Class 2 medical device, which all the NFL or former NFL players in the settlement case with the NFL are on that platform because it's how they're actually monitoring their brain performance and how they're getting into the whole, pay levels and so forth.
That's fascinating.
This is not only, people think it's something for the concussion. We're talking about the brain as a whole. Concussions is actually a very small part of what happens to the brain, but the RC21X, it is a very valuable information that we need, because if we have that information in our back pocket before something happens to us or anyone in our families, we can now have that number to where they can, in treatment, they will bring you back to. If you don't have a baseline, and you end up in a car accident, for example, they will patch you up, but then they're going to treat you for a traumatic brain injury. How or where are they taking you to? Because they can start treating you. When do they stop?
Yeah, it's fascinating too, because with mobile technology and then really gamification of technology, like you said, you've created that baseline of that testing, whereas 20 years ago you'd have to go in for a scan or they'd have to hook up things to your brain. Now we all can do this all the time. So again, you're advancing science as general. Now, again, the name of the show is Geeks Who Like Sports, so we're also nerds. So this is exactly a topic we can talk about here without anybody worrying about it. But
I am a magnet for technology. I am. That's my thing. I'm telling you, when it comes to interesting technology that can be utilized to advance us as human beings and health and wellness and all the cool stuff, for some reason it finds me. I mean, I see so many cool things that people bring me. It's amazing. I should be a shark at Shark Tank. Many people bring me stuff. I just need the money.
That Mark Cuban would love that.
Listen, I need the money that these guys have to be able to start investing. No doubt.
I always say I don't want to be on Shark Tank. I want to be a shark. Right. Well, I got to thank you again. I've been telling Ray for years he has a huge brain, and that I look up to it. And now I have the statistical proof that it's true.
We have the number.
And I can monitor it weekly. So thank you, sir, for that. No, thank you for telling us that story. That is
absolutely. And the more you play it, it's like going to the gym. So, and you'll see how it changes with you. I invite you and, your fans to really download it. And there is a code if you want to use it, RCJ21. But the more you play the game, like I said, it's going to the gym. And the last thing I'm going to talk about it is the fact that, let's say that you played it a couple weeks this month, and then you stop playing it. Next month, you forgot to play it or whatever. You play it again, and the next time you play it, there is a red there's a red dot on one of the modules. Well, we suggest to wait a couple hours, play it again. If you have that red dot in that same module, you must go see your physician because there's something affecting your brain. Now, it doesn't mean that it's the brain's the problem. It's actually your brain because you have now a relationship with your brain. Your brain is telling you that there is something wrong. So if your physician can now take a look at what module that is, what part of the brain is being compromised, they'll go back, take a look at a checklist of ailments and conditions that affect that particular part of the brain, and they can go take a look at it and nip it in the bud before it becomes a problem.
That's fascinating. That is fascinating. And again, the app is called Roberto. You can get it on
Roberto
iTunes
app.
Perfect.
iOS
correct.
and Android, and no, it is phenomenal, and it was really nice. It was nice for me to see just how much smarter I was than Lee in numerical form. No,
you get one round, Ray. You get one round.
Yeah, that's it. I had to take my shot.
Get you on the ice here soon.
Listen, everyone has their own scores, and it's kind of fun because you guys can show, okay, I'm better.
Yeah.
But you can see, and Lee, you can actually start working on the different modules and how to get better because you can increase those numbers. And now you're aware where you are, where you need to be, but everyone's different. It's like your fingerprint is your brain print. So it's actually, everyone's completely different.
Oh, believe me, it's game on, but we'll get back to that.
Well, I mean, to be fair, and we talk about this all the time, is that, look, Lee and I are smart in different ways. That's all. That's all it is. Obviously, like he said, if we ever got on the ice, I can barely ice skate, whereas Lee would literally skate circles around me. So there are different things, different folks for different strokes for different things. We lost visual on RJ.
How is that possible?
I don't know. We can hear you still.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah, we lost you for a second. Sorry about that.
That was a good point to lose it, so it works out.
Yeah.
But edit that out.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's interesting going back to what you were saying earlier, though, about how we're just learning about what games really do for the brain or what they can do. We actually just broke this, I think, yesterday, that there's now officially, they're using a video game to treat ADHD. And we're also seeing video games, we've also seen this before, for people coming back from war that they use it to treat PTSD. So, you know, there's a lot of positives typically associated with video games, at least that we're starting to learn now as we, you know, look at them and how they affect the brain. So this is another fantastic tool to see what they do. I mean, and it's also, it's great to see another proponent for video games.
This tool, what it does really, it will confirm, it will validate any type of study, because as human beings, like I said, we have a baseline. So being able to have that baseline is how you can actually say, you know what, if I want to prove that my game is going to do good for the brain, I will grab some subjects, get them baseline, start playing the game for a period of time, go back in, test them, and then you have your proof. Yeah. And it's very simple, but we at least now have the capacity and the ability of monitoring our performance, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. But you do a lot of work, RJ, besides obviously your work with the technology and work on the brain. We mentioned it at the top of the show. You were critical of bringing the Reviving Baseball in Inner Cities program to Puerto Rico, which is RBI, for those you know. You also brought it to Pittsburgh, which I was kind of surprised to find out it wasn't there sooner, considering you know, you have the Pirates right there, but you know, you've been an integral part of that. Talk to us a bit about the RBI program, your work with it, and what it was like to bring it to your native Puerto Rico, and then of course bring it to Pittsburgh, which of course is a city near and dear to your family.
Absolutely. Well, you know, John Young started the program in 1981 in Los Angeles. And, you know, he started with 5 kids, you know, in a ball field. And all of a sudden in 1992, we had our first World Series that actually was played at the Time Bush Stadium, St. Louis. And that's when I actually realized that Pittsburgh didn't have a team. But to make a long story short, I saw so many teams from all over the country being able to participate. And what the program brings is actually the opportunity for the inner city kids to have educational program, a component through the baseball, you know, this ability to bring them in through baseball and creating a great atmosphere for them to continue their education. And as you know, baseball has an issue and for many years is the fact the African American kids are not playing baseball as much as they're playing basketball, they're playing football, and it's something that baseball has been attacking for many years, and RBI has been a great instrument to be able to bring those kids the game that they love into the inner city. So that was a great thing for me to be bring the first team out of Puerto Rico. We won in '92, both seniors and juniors. We've won so many titles already, I can't count. But for me, the most really just unbelievable story is when I started here in Pittsburgh, being able to take a team to the regionals. And I grabbed a bus, I rented a bus and had movies in a bus. We went to Virginia Beach for the regionals. And what I heard was, what is that? It was a question, what is that? And when I look, it was actually the kids asking what the ocean was.
Oh wow.
And I actually I went to the driver. I said, "But do me a favor, just stop the bus, let these kids go enjoy the beach for a second." And that image of these kids running from this bus and kind of ripping their shirts off and just running towards the water, that is for me the most amazing feeling, because I take it for granted. I grew up in the beach, I grew up in ocean, but these kids never, have been outside of 5 mile radius from their home, and it's all inner cities. It's all concrete, and for them to be able to run on sand towards a body of water for the first time, that for me was an amazing um, feeling that I said these kids in Pittsburgh need to have the opportunity to travel, to go out and see the world outside of their communities, because they have to, they need to.
One of the things that's amazing is, you talked about this a little bit, is people take for granted the underserved communities. And like you said, a 5 mile radius is their entire life. I volunteered with football clubs in inner city Philadelphia, which is I'm sure some of those kids have never seen the ocean, and we're not too far. And then I've also seen it in emerging sports nations. So I did a lot of work with emerging hockey nations around the world. And we talked a little bit before the show. My wife and her entire family are from the island of Puerto Rico. So I wanted to ask you, obviously your family is huge on that island for many, many different reasons. What has it been like to be part of watching that become an emerging baseball nation? And then on top of that, with everything that's happened to that island over the last 5 years, from the hurricanes to the earthquakes and everything in between, how have your family, how has baseball been a part of that healing process and pushing it forward?
Wow, that is a great question, Lee. Thank you. And I can tell you that even more than 5 years, baseball has declined in the professional side because of the major leaguers are not playing back in the league, and a lot of changes throughout the years, and a lot of the young people that are not interested in baseball, what are they doing? They're gaming. They're gaming. Actually, gaming has a lot to do with it. But which is kind of funny that I understand both sides, and I get it. But even you have the players. The players are a bunch of players are great gamers, and it's a matter of being able to kind of find the balance for the young kids. The professionals, they're fine. They after the games they just go and
Yeah.
which is actually a great thing because it keeps them out of trouble anyway. So, but the Puerto Rico has definitely gone through an amazing transition because of the hurricanes and the struggles and the infrastructure issues that obviously they were evident. And now everything moves very slow in Puerto Rico. But when you have no commitment from the U.S. government, the federal government, to be able to make sure that the aid that needs to get there gets there in time, and everyone that needs to get it, it's not happening. It's even more of a struggle if you don't have the help of our government. So, sports, obviously people look for sports as an outlet to be able to find something normal that will get their brains and their minds off of the struggles that we have all gone through. The one thing that I can tell you is that the announcement number one, we were very excited to have Major League Baseball coming to Puerto Rico to play. Mm-hmm. That was gone with Corona. I mean, come on, really? But everything else, everyone was so excited for having MLB in PR, but the whole world is in shock with the pandemic. But because of it and the shortened season in Major League Baseball, a lot of the players in Puerto Rico already have announced that they will be playing this year in the Roberto Clemente Winter League, which is fantastic because a lot of those guys haven't played in these. Some guys that in the major leagues have never played in the league because of how things have changed. The contracts are larger. They don't want them to go and get hurt, whatever the case may be. But now they will be getting ready and gearing up for the winter in Puerto Rico. And that's big news for the fans there to see their major leaguers go back onto the field.
Anything to bring a sense of solace to those people, because they're an incredibly resilient people. I was inspired by the way they responded to this. And as you said, in the face of really no help, I won't go into politics with Puerto Rico right now, but everyone listening, you should really go and read about this island and the structure of how they're governed. It's fascinating, for lack of a better word, and not in a good way. But thank you for that answer, and thank you for diving into it, because I find it fascinating. And like I said, before I met my wife, I didn't know much, but obviously being married for over 10 years now, I've learned quite a bit. I've been accepted by that side of the family. Yeah, well, look, I'll tell you a quick story. I remember when I asked her father for her hand in marriage, I remember I said, I'd like to marry your daughter. And the first time I met this man, by the way, he had a bloody machete, but we'll get into that later. But I asked him, may he knows what I'm talking about. I said, may I have your hand's daughter in marriage? And he said, no. And I said, I'm stuck here. And he says, you can't just have her hand. You have to take all of her. And like that's what he said to me. It scared me to death. But that family has taught me a lot about life, a lot about perspective, and having been to that island many times, it's an amazing place. So, again, thank you for your work there, your family's work, and thank you for that answer, because I didn't know that the players were going to be down there. I think that's fascinating and awesome.
Yes, we're happy, but we hope that we'll be able to finish the MLB season, going to the playoffs, World Series, which is actually where we need to finish, hopefully, and without any more interruptions, hopefully, from the pandemic, we can actually at least get some baseball down there and make it count.
So let me turn towards that real quick, because I have to keep Ray from asking about the Yankees as long as possible. That's one of my goals on this show, and I'm going to give him the time because he deserves it. But let's just get your general thoughts on.
I have other questions too, by the way. Not just
You've already beat me once today, Ray. No, Ray, if you would like to ask the questions, go ahead. I just wanted to ask about the MLB overall. Go ahead.
Well,
Ray.
yeah, no, exactly. I was going to follow up, and I was going to be like, speaking of Major League Baseball, what do you think of the proposed 60-game season? How we got there, and what do you think about some of the players who have decided to opt out from playing in the season this year? What are your thoughts on all that?
Well, I'm happy that there will be some baseball. They've been trying to get there. It was not looking good. Still, there was a bad taste in the mouth of fans that why did it take so long to get the agreement? But let's get to the point. 60 games is 60 games. Is better than nothing. It's going to be quite interesting, the conversations right now, because you have a shortened season, and they're saying, yeah, but if you can't become a world champion with a shortened season, well, everyone's starting from the same gate. Everyone's starting from the same point. The same struggles that everyone has gone through. It's an even platform. It's an even playing field for everyone. So you have 60 games to win. So talk about every game counts. Every game counts. It's going to be quite interesting. I think it's going to be fun. Looking at it, the more I think about it, it will be fun. You never know if it's going to actually change some perspectives in Major League Baseball and how to change the game a bit, in terms of making it more exciting and making it count more, from first part of the season to the second. I don't know. I mean, I truly believe that I hope that we can begin and finish without any interruptions. What I'm seeing right now and what I'm hearing, a lot of the guys that are opting out, I mean, I respect that. They have different situations with their family life, and baseball's a game. This is not a thing that I want to be able to play or feel forced to play, and then at the end of the day, get someone sick. The family, someone else that I know, and it's something that I don't want to do.
No, that's fair. I mean, obviously, it seems like everyone's trying to be as safe as possible with all of these, with coming back. Nobody's doing it. Obviously, nobody's rushing back to this, and obviously playing it safe. We actually talked to Mark Friedman of the Flyers last week, and he talked about all the hurdles they had to go through, all the testing,
extreme testing.
To make sure. So obviously, nobody wants to. Yes, the fact that we're coming back, you would hope that the league wouldn't get to this point unless they were absolutely certain they could try to keep everybody safe as possible. So I think I think we're all happy baseball is back for sure, and it's like you said, it's going to be interesting also because there's a lot of new rules. Universal DH this year, guys starting on second base, and in extra innings. What are your thoughts about some of these new rules?
I think football has changed throughout the years so much, but it takes a minute to get used to them. We don't talk about them after the fact. When they start, they're like, both sides going at it. And baseball's so traditional, so old school, that is a very big ship to be able to turn just one way or the other. It is such a big, massive, traditional sport, to be able to implement those new things. Some people like them, some people don't. I have no problem with them, as long as they're going to kind of make it more exciting, and be able to broadcasting. For me, the years I was broadcasting for the Yankees, it seemed every game was 4 hours. 4 hours.
Yeah.
It's like the average was 3.5 hours with the Yankees. That was years. Yeah. Anyway, so I understand the fans. I was getting paid. I got no problem. But there's a lot of fans that needed to go home to go to work the next morning, go to school. But I get it. I understand. How the arguments come in terms of changing the rules and changes of the game. I think that if it doesn't work, they need to roll it back. But I mean, I think that change is good. Baseball needs to continue to look for changes that will not affect the game itself, in terms of the integrity of the game. But I believe that being able to make it more watchable for a lot of more people, I think it's a must.
There's also been talk for many years in recent years of moving teams or expansion, bringing baseball to 32 teams. And we just talked about the importance of baseball in Puerto Rico. If there were to be a 31st and 32nd franchise, do you think one of those franchises should be in Puerto Rico? Do you think that it should be that should be one of the markets?
Well, you know what? If we were talking several years ago, I would have said yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, Puerto Rico would not be able to hold the franchise. I think I believe I have some plans. I wish I could talk about those right now, but I'll come back and talk about when I'm ready to.
Open invite. Yeah. You can come back anytime, RJ.
but I'm working on a few things, and I've been trying to figure out how to get baseball, including a minor league baseball team. I had the conversation 2 years ago. And they said, no, we're trying to cut down. And obviously we know now what's happening in the minor leagues. Yeah. But I truly believe that I have an idea that might fly. I know there are 2 expansion teams coming in the next few years. There are 2. I wish we were ready to push for Puerto Rico. We're not ready. It would be fantastic, but the infrastructure we need to kind of. I rather have Puerto Rico really take its time to build, to rebuild the right way, and not have to go backwards anymore. I want to make sure that every step that we take is actually on solid ground. Make sure that we build on solid ground and not a house of cards. Make sure that we have everything working the right way. And once we have that, the economy, the tourism, there's so many big plans coming to Puerto Rico right now. We need to be healthy enough to be able to host a team, a baseball team. We need to be healthy, and we're not healthy right now.
You know, to give a little bit of the resilience, going back to what I was saying, I remember shortly after the hurricane, so Puerto Rico has a professional basketball league down there, in which my cousin and I watch all the time. And I was amazed at how quickly that came back, and in spite of everything. And, you know, so it is, to echo what you're saying, an incredibly proud sports country. And again, when I think you're right, I think when the economy, when the infrastructure is set up, it almost becomes an obvious place for the sport. So time will tell. But yeah, we're definitely going to have you back on when those plans come to fruition. I want to know what they are too.
No doubt. Listen, I will certainly make myself available for that, because they say it will be a pretty cool conversation. One thing, and on the other side, one thing we're working on a show that I can say that in the next few weeks there will be an announcement. I hope, I'm praying right now that there will be an announcement about a show to do with baseball. And it will be on a reality side. Let's put it that way. That's what I have to say.
Well, you heard it here fifth. No, that's great. You heard it here first. There's an announcement coming. No, I love it. All right, Ray, listen, I want you to talk about the Yankees, because I want to watch you talk about the Yankees, because Ray loves the Yankees, loves them. Like I couldn't gush enough about this. So he's prepared. I'm going to enjoy this.
All right. So, I mean, you mentioned, of course, the 4-hour games back in the late 90s, which, of course, was because the Yankees were beating every team by 5 runs en route to setting the American League record at the time in 1998. How was it to go to I mean, I know from watching at home, right? Like, I grew up in North Jersey, right? So I grew up a Yankee fan, like that Yankees, Giants, Rangers, Knicks, and we'll talk a few other sports later. But you know, what was it like to work in the area at that time and to be part of the Yankee organization? Because you were also part of WFAN for a while, you know, in your broadcasting career. And of course, again, North Jersey, we all listened to Sports Pope Mike Francesa for many years, you know, Mike and the Mad Dog, you know. But what was it like specifically working, you know, for the Yankees for those few years during a team that was really the most dominant in baseball for that period of time?
I can tell you, it was amazing, Ray. It was amazing, Ray. Amazing.
If this was Family Feud, big family, this would be a top score. Survey says, bing.
It was absolutely a blast because I would get up in the morning and do my thing and then head to the ballpark. I'll be there at 2:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and just walking into Yankee Stadium, we knew, you felt just the confidence of this team. There was no beating. This team was a fun team. I mean, we used to hang out. I mean, we did a lot of things as a family, and it was a lot of fun to watch these guys, man, just day in, day out. And they made it look easy. I mean, '98 was insane. That was a great year. All those years, I feel very lucky and fortunate that I come in '97 and that team was just simply amazing. We came in short because of Sandy Alomar's home run. You remember that? Cleveland. But 97, we would have been there in '97 too. But 98, 99, 2000, come on. And then obviously 2001, 9/11, that in itself, to be there, that first game back, that was a night I will never forget for sure. But that experience of being one of the three amigos for the broadcast team, the Spanish broadcast team of the Yankees, by far, I think I never had so much fun broadcasting games because I had nicknames for everyone, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Those are fun memories. That's all I can say.
I gotta tell you, it's fun watching you turn into a 10-year-old kid right now, just with your excitement with all this. And I'll tell you this too. We talked a lot about Puerto Rico, but I want to talk about New York too. So Ray, I met Ray in college up in Montclair State University up in northern Jersey. And then he and I both ended up working in Manhattan for several years. And I would say I was born and raised in Philadelphia, but I sharpened my teeth in New York. And you brought up, the 9/11 and the game after the 9/11. New York City has a tremendous amount of resilience. It is the hardest working city on earth. I was very proud to have worked there for as long as I did. Another city that's going through a really hard time right now. So someone who has been there every day during good times and the bad times, do you echo those sentiments that, this city, when it gets back on its feet, nothing will stop New York. And baseball coming back to New York right now too is super, super important for the people of that city.
Listen, obviously New York has every major sport, but when it comes to having a sport to bring you back from anything traumatic, baseball is it. Yeah. I mean, there's no other way of putting it together. For some reason, the camaraderie, the fans come together, the nation comes together. They don't just the towns as the cities, but the nation, they'll come together in those spots to be able to watch these guys go out and play. But it's more than the game. It's the family. It's actually the hardworking people for so many generations of taking their kids, their families, talking about how hard this this guy is working, and look at this, and people that have earned they're working now more than ever. Financially, it's going to be pretty hard to go to a baseball game. I mean, think about it. So being able to hopefully watch these games, have some entertainment, some normalcy, but to be able to give everyone hope is the most important thing. To be able to have that hope grow and into where we need to do, what we need to do to come out stronger on the other side. But we need to be very, very smart right now, not to kind of take steps back. Because we went through it already. People are talking about closing America again, which it will not be good. So I'm hoping that from the sports side, the guys can go out there and play the game safely and be able to bring the entertainment that we need right now in our lives, and that's what we need.
Yeah, Ray and I were both very critical of the MLB during their negotiations because, for a while there it was not looking good, and kind of echo what you said about how we need this as America's pastime and how it's becoming dangerously close to not being America's pastime. But one of the bits of news that came out of the MLB that made me feel comfortable or better was the interleague structure in which Ray's Yankees will take on my Phillies this year. And, I haven't really seen Ray's Yankees since 2009. So I'm looking forward to that matchup as well within the interleague. But yeah, no, again, thank you for that answer, because I think that that really sums up a bigger thought that Ray and I were trying to convey about how important sports can be to healing, right? And the dangers involved in it, but into healing. So anyway, Ray, I'll let you gush a little bit more. I'm sorry, I had to follow up on that.
No, I mean it's a good point. I mean, you mentioned 9/11 before. I mean, I remember I was actually, I'll never forget this, on 9/10, September 10th, the night before. The Yankees were supposed to play the Red Sox. It's the first time I actually had gotten tickets to a Yankees-Red Sox game, and the game got rained out. And I'll never forget thinking the next day how literally 12 hours prior, my biggest problem was that I had tickets that now I had to exchange for next year because of a rain out, because of course it had rained the night before in the Bronx. And also the Giants lost 31-20 on Monday Night Football. I'll never forget that. I'm like the Yankees got rained out, the Giants lost.
Well, and the Giants thing made me happy as an Eagles fan. I mean, I'm
trying to relay a memory here, but it was such a you just think about how in such a little time how your whole world changes, and then it was baseball that brought us back. It brought, at least for those of us who were in the area, I mean, but it really was, baseball helped us all heal in a way that I don't think we all realized we needed it, but it brought back, like you said, it brought back that sense of normalcy that it was like we could exhale a little bit finally.
Yeah.
Like after 9/11, I remember being in that, again in North Jersey, like literally from where I grew up, you could draw a line to the World Trade Center. It was like about 10 miles, like literally like if you drew a straight line. And it was, you just didn't realize how there was a tension there for that time period. It was baseball that helped us kind of come back. Football a little bit too, obviously, but it was really baseball, that everyday aspect of it. It's like, okay, cool. It's the Yankees are back. We can focus on, and for 3 hours you could just turn your mind off of the rest of the world.
Or
and
four.
It was, or 4, or 5 if we were playing Boston again. Like it was.
It won't be 5 this year, I can tell you that. Yeah.
So it was. No, it really is. Really is something. And yeah, like we like Lee said, we've been talking about on the show the past couple of weeks, the fact that baseball finally seemed to get their head out of their collective butts and get this done. We need this right now. But I also want to talk about a little bit more about your broadcasting career. You were a prolific player in your own right until, unfortunately, some injuries kind of sidelined you. What was the transition like from being a player to being a broadcaster? What was that like for you?
It was. It took me a year. It took me a season to. Number one, I was not planning on becoming a broadcaster. That was not my plan. I happened to be at a meeting. I was actually living between Pittsburgh and Washington, D.C. I went to New York for a week for some meetings. And my last meeting before I went to Penn Station to go to Washington, D.C. for the weekend, I get offered to be the third guy on the booth for the Spanish broadcast. I mean, it was on Friday, right? Roberto, you know what? Thinking about it, this is the guy that had the rights, Ralph Paniagua. And Ralph goes, he looks at me, he goes, we get all these guest guys in. You are a star. I'm gonna make you a star. I'm like, come on. He goes, number one, you know the game. You know the sport, you know the game, and you speak Spanish. What else do we need? Let's go. And it's kind of funny. That was Friday. The following Tuesday, I was doing my first game.
Wow.
It was the Brewers. It was Brewers and Yankees. My first game in '97 that I broadcasted, and I started as a color guy, and by the end of that season, I was already doing 3 innings of play-by-play. And from that point on, we split the games and had a ball. I feel very fortunate to so many great moments, but the David Cone perfect game, right? It's funny. The first hitter of the game after after the third pitch, I said, David Cone's stuff today is no hitting stuff. That's what I said. So in the commercials, one of my partners goes, Roberto, how can you say? I said because listen, I don't BS. This is what I see. That's how I feel. That's how I say it. Ninth inning, they're looking at me going like this. But it's fascinating how you can see in a matter of 3 pitches how electric a guy can be immediately. And for me, I mean, they had a celebration of the perfect game last year. I was able to go. Tony was there. There's so many great memories, and people don't realize. There was Paul O'Neill. That first inning catch.
Yeah.
That saved that perfect game.
Yeah.
And that was in the first inning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyway, I mean, but baseball obviously, and the 9/11 thing for me was huge because, I lived across the bridge at the time, and I went in, saw the gash early that morning, and I'm like, what's going on? I got the radio going, and then I turn around and I'm coming downtown to go back and I saw the second plane hit. And that was that everyone still to this day was affected, no doubt. And baseball, brought us back into a happy place, and it was able to pull a lot of people away from that awful feeling of uncertainty and what was going to happen. But now baseball was back, and that was an amazing. And to see George W., who I happen to like a lot, because when he was the owner of the Texas Rangers, I met him and spent three days with him at his ranch. And he's a funny dude. The guy's a funny guy. People don't know, but he speaks perfect Spanish. Very good Spanish. So every time I see him, whatever, he would not speak to me in English. He wants to speak to me in Spanish to practice. So it's but I mean, for him to be there in that field, in our nation, watching our president throwing out the first pitch to start baseball again was, I mean, that was special, no doubt.
Do you prefer doing play-by-play or color commentary? Which one do you prefer when you're in the booth?
Ooh, it depends who's playing, but play-by-play for sure. Play-by-play obviously is. I really, once I got a hold of it, I mean, it's the best thing to do in life.
Yeah.
So I gotta interject here and tell you this, that it's funny because Ray and I have actually both done play-by-play and color commentary. Obviously not for the Yankees, but technically not. Ray technically has not done it for the Yankees. I'll tell you what I mean by that in a minute. But there is a connection when you do play-by-play to the. I mean, you feel like you're part of the game, and you are. Especially with some of the calls you've made. I do have to tell you, Ray won't say this because he's way too humble. But I'm going to send you a clip after this show because Ray does live play-by-play while playing MLB The Show live on Twitch. And he's really, really good. And I'm not just saying that, but I'm going to send you a clip because I think you're the perfect person to see this because of the way you.
That would be awesome. That would be, yes. I send you the clip, please. Please.
I got to tell you, his digital Yankees team, I call them the Digi Yanks, are the greatest Yankees team of all time.
Yeah.
Record-wise.
Really?
I don't. Well, record-wise, I don't like to lose, but we're worried now because Garrett Cole separated his shoulder at the beginning of September, and he's going to miss the playoffs. So we're down a starter now. So we'll see what happens.
Boy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
boy.
it's a computer simulator. They're like,
That's hilarious. That's funny.
it's
That's
random.
great.
It's random. It's so.
Yeah.
Random.
Random.
Had to call up Devi Garcia from the minors now to take the 5th spot in the rotation, and now we're James Paxton is the guy. I don't know if Big Maple can be the guy to lead us to championship.
He's not
28.
taking this seriously at all, by the way. Just want you to know. All right. I'm gonna send you a short clip, because you'll love it. I do want to transition. I do want to quickly transition from New York to Pittsburgh, because you spent obviously a lot of time there, your family, and we were told. Now, I'm a huge hockey guy, huge. All right, and I'm told there was a story about you finding lots of hockey sticks coming from that you wanted to share with us.
Yes. Listen, so after the accident, Mom decided to buy a house in Pittsburgh. We loved coming to Pittsburgh for the summertime, so we would rent the house to the Penguins. Number one, I'm young. I'm 8 years old, 9 years old, and so we would come back to Pittsburgh for the summer, and every summer we had, I don't know how many hockey sticks in our basement, right? Broken, So we would wake up the next morning, and every morning we had 30 kids outside our door because they wanted to play. But mostly, now that I really understand what was going on, they wanted to get our hockey sticks.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. They knew we had hockey sticks, and we take them. We didn't care. Mario Lemieux, who cares? Who's that? You know what I mean? Type of deal. So, it's funny how the word works, but I love hockey. I started going to hockey games here in Pittsburgh, and for me, it was not the same as TV. TV, but when I went to a game, I got hooked. That was it. It's a done deal.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I talking about New York in 1998, in 1999, I was hanging out with the folks from NSYNC. And they are hockey. We were literally going to New Jersey hockey games. Like, it was insane. And for some reason, it was insane anyway. So it seemed like when I had a day off, I was hanging out with them at a hockey game for some reason. Then we would go, hang out at the clubs. But I have this great relationship with some of the guys in the hockey space. It's amazing. But one story that I need to share that I know you guys are gonna like is that in the 93. No, it was 93 when Jordan went to play baseball or attempt to play baseball. Mm-hmm. I was at camp and I went to get some stuff from Frank Thomas. I said, Frank, I need some balls and some bat sign. I'm studying my foundation in Pittsburgh, blah, blah, blah. No problem. So we're talking. He goes, yeah, Roberto, whatever. He's getting dressed. He goes, have you met MJ yet? And I'm like, oh, wait. I was so dude, right. I forgot he was there. I'm like, yeah, dude, I was looking. That's my man. I can't wait to meet MJ. You kidding me? He goes, all right. He just walked in. So I look back, and here goes Jordan going across the locker room, going to his locker. I'm like, man, I gotta meet Jordan. You know what? I gotta get a ball signed. I gotta get some things signed by him. So I said, come on, Frank, hurry up. I want to see him. So I look back. He's taking his shirt off. He's hanging up his shirt. So Frank taking his time and look back, and there's Jordan taking off his pants, right? So I'm like, come on, man, hurry up. I don't want to go meet Jordan when he's naked. You know what I mean? So he starts laughing. Come on. So he's hanging up his pants in his locker. And Frank goes, MJ, I want you to meet a good friend of mine. And he's hanging up. He goes, Roberto Clemente Jr. He stops and he turns so slowly and he goes, sir, what an honor to meet you. And I'm thinking, wait a second. This is Michael Jordan. He called me sir. He said, sir, what an honor to meet you. When I was growing up, I wanted to be Roberto Clemente. And this is, I want to be like Mike, but no, you want to be, So 2 weeks later, we hang out. Actually, we hung out that night. It's fantastic. 2 weeks later is the 40th anniversary of SI. The celebration is in New York City. It's at the Museum of Natural History. And the who's who of all these big athletes that grace the cover of SI are in one room, in the green room, getting ready to go out to the tables and stuff, right? So I walk in. I took my executive director at the time for the foundation, the new foundation, and I get to the green room. They put a thing, and I'm walking in. The first person that goes, "Hey, Roberto," it was Muhammad Ali, right? It was the champ. He goes, "Roberto." I go, "Champ, how you doing?" He goes, "Who's the blonde?" That's my. I said, "Bonnie's sitting right there. Who's the blonde?" So anyway, I go get Bonnie. Bonnie came here, meet the champ and his wife, So I introduced him. I turn and I hit this guy, pop, and I look up and I'm like, whoa. And he goes, "Wow, what an honor to meet you. When I was growing up, I wanted to be your father." And I looked around and said, "Am I being punked? Like, is this crazy?" That was Wayne Gretzky, my friends.
Okay. Incredible. Yeah.
So I'm like, come on, you got it. I didn't want to call him a liar. I said, dude, like, oh, that's great, So several years later, I'm at St. Catherine's playing golf at a Fergie Jenkins golf outing. And they pair me with Gretzky's father. So we chatting, yeah. So we get on the golf course, and it took me around 3 or 4 holes to kind of get a feel to be able to start, messing with him. And I said, your son is a liar. I said, I finally was, your son is a liar.
You told Walter Gretzky his son's a liar?
Yeah, I said, why? I told him the story. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know what hole we were at, but we teed off. He's driving the cart, and he makes a shot, right? Like, we go like this, and like, what are we doing? There was a toy house. It looked like a toy house. Little did I know, this is his home. This is where Gretzky grew up. Okay? Opens the door, and there's a portrait of my father right there.
Wow.
I say no more. I stand corrected. I said, okay, I stand corrected. All right?
Yeah.
That's it. So I actually visually saw, it's amazing that, I would speak to the champ and speaking to Jordan, and you have President Obama, you have Clinton, and you have George W., all these people that somehow my father was able to touch, and for them to become huge fans of his is a big deal. So I always ask, what do I have in common? They all love my father. That's
an amazing story, and I'll tell you, your father's obviously transcended sport in many ways. I mean, since I've seen your father's portrait in many of my family's homes, to give the listeners an idea of how much this man meant to his country and obviously to the sports world and beyond. But that's an amazing story, and I appreciate you sharing. Now, I don't know where our interview ranks, with Jordan, Ali, Gretzky, Walter Gretzky. But I'm glad that we got to share that story with everybody listening right now. That's fascinating and wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, the stories are endless. I mean, there's so many great stories that it would take hours and hours. And that's why I believe I just decided to write my book and be able to share my life. My life hasn't been easy. It's been I feel very blessed that I am here today to tell my story because people don't realize I was 7 years old when I woke up December 31st and I walked over to my father to say good morning. And what came out was, don't get on that plane. That plane is going to crash. So after that plane crash for me, I felt guilty. 2 or 3 months later, I started being abused because he wasn't around. I mean, my life was, it took a turn that people don't realize. And for me to be able to sit here and be able to now write and share all the stuff that happened to me, great stuff, but horrific stuff at the same time. But being able to go and go through it and be able to have the faith in my Lord Jesus Christ to really save me. It's a testimonial that you don't want to miss. Trust me, because there's some unbelievable stories, but the horrific part of it is actually, I believe, has to do with a combination of PTSD, because I was diagnosed 2 years ago for PTSD. That I knew there was something going on, but obviously it's something that you don't think about, because as things were happening, you were making adjustments on how to deal with your life.
Yeah.
So when people are going through a lot of things and they feel alone, they need to hear stories that are going to be able to grab them and bring them hope that they're not alone. And I think that all the different experiences that I've gone through, I'm going to be able to touch on about every single topic you can even think of, in terms of having a conversation, and mostly for us that are men, being able to have someone tell the story and kind of break that ice, to be able to have that conversation for other men to say, you know what, I think I need to tell my thing, to be able to take all this stuff out. Is the only way we're going to
Yeah.
start healing. We need to heal from within and make ourselves better, to be able to help others and be able to have the conversation on how to become better.
Absolutely. What's the name of the book? When's it come out?
Well, I'm trying to figure out what the title will be. I already started to have the manuscript done. I have a combination of I want to be able to do something different. I want to be able to have the manuscript is done one page, and then video clip. Got 10 video clips of every paragraph, and be able to start kind of explaining, and then let the voice and the video kind of tell the story. And I have the first part of that, and the people that have seen it, they're like, "Wow, I never knew." But that was actually, I did that during the first thing of Corona. There were no people in the streets. I was walking downtown Pittsburgh and the Clemente Bridge, no cars around. So I was being interviewed, and I was walking around the city, showing even the clubs. I will be catching in the bullpen in '78 and '79 for the Pirates in summertime. And after the games, I'm 14 years old, and I'm going hanging out with the guys in the clubs. I mean, that was my life. You know what I mean? But it was. I think if anyone could have gone through what I went through, is me, and still be alive, having crossed over 3 times, knowing what's on the other side when we die, is pretty scary to a lot of people. But for me, I believe that people talk about hell. This is hell, actually. Where we're going is a good place. I mean, where I'm going, where I've been already, it's been fantastic. And the confirmation to what people say, that we're going to be meeting the people that we lost, the confirmation to that answer of the question is yes, we're going to see them again. So I just want to let it be known that it is a good thing. And like my example, my grandmother passed at 83. They had to amputate both her legs because of diabetes, and she's mid-20s. She's 30 years old with both legs dancing. So it doesn't matter how they leave in terms of their bodies, they're back to their glory days. if they're doing the right thing down here, for sure.
That's an awesome and fantastic note to I think wrap this up on. RJ, thank you so much for the stories you've told us, for everything you're doing in the community. Again, the Roberto app is available on iOS and Android. Keep an eye out for his book. You have to come back on and tell us about it when it's ready to come out. Like, we would love to have you on again. Like we were joking earlier, open invite. Whenever you want to come on, RJ, you are more than welcome to come back, my friend.
And vice versa. Anytime you want us to follow you around, we'll be happy to oblige that. Okay? As
if
well.
you ever need some color guys in the booth or something.
Listen, I tell you what, I promise it'll be soon. I'll be back soon to tell more stories and make an announcement. So I'll be back soon, guys.
Love that.
Well, thank you again. Our guest today on the Leaderboard interviews is the one and only Roberto Clemente Jr. We thank you again so much for your time. It really has been a pleasure. And again, the Roberto app, iOS and Android, download it now. Get sharper. See where you are mentally. I'm better than Lee. That's the important thing.
Today.
Today. That's right. Lee's going to work real hard now to get better, and he's going to have the app to prove it. So thank you again, RJ, so much for coming on. We really do appreciate it. And until next time, this has been the Geeks Who Like Sports Leaderboard interview.